Senator Susan Collins could be facing an opponent in the 2020 election. That's when she's up for re-election. And the reason why we're having a conversation about this to begin with is because Senator Collins voted in favor of Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. Now, Susan Rice, a former Obama aide, tweeted something that made it seem as though she's considering running for Senate in Maine. And Collins did not like that. In fact, she went on CNN and spoke to Dana Bash about it, and here's what she had to say.
The political backlash, I don't have to tell you, has been fierce. You saw a tweet from Susan Rice saying that maybe she would run. The Speaker of the House in Maine, a crowdfunding website has raised $2.6 million for whomever your opponent will be in 2020.
As far as Susan Rice is concerned, her family has a home in Maine, but she doesn't live in the state of Maine. Everybody knows that. But the irony is, back in 2009, when she was nominated to be ambassador of the UN, she came to me, even though I did not know her back then at all, and pleaded with me to introduce her before the committee.
Just one quick clarification. Senator Collins has a home in DC where she lives most of the time with her husband. Just a little point that I wanted to make before we move on to the other accusations that she made. Now, look, we don't know for sure if Susan Rice is gonna run against her, but what she had said about Susan Rice coming to her and begging for an endorsement when she wanted to be ambassador to the UN is complete and utter nonsense. In fact, reporters did dig up some of what Susan Collins had said. And Cenk, I wanna quickly go to that video and then I'll toss it over to you. Take a look.
It is my privilege today to introduce Dr. Susan Rice, the president-elect's nominee to be the next United States ambassador to the United Nations. The people of Maine are proud of what this remarkable woman has accomplished in her distinguished career of service to our nation. And we take special pride in her strong ties to our state. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Uygur, I can think of no better message to convey to the United Nations and no better messenger than Dr. Susan Rice. I'm honored to present her to this distinguished committee, and I enthusiastically endorse her nomination. Thank you. Thanks to all the members of the committee.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Collins. What a wonderful introduction. Remind me that if I am ever in need of an introduction, I want to put in my reservation right now. It doesn't get better than that.
Doesn't get better than that.
No, my favorite though was her now saying she doesn't really live in Maine. Not only did that video overwhelmingly prove her deep connections to Maine, but also on Susan Collins' website, it talked about UN ambassador nominees' deep roots in Maine. That's Susan Collins' words. And here's another quote from the website. Dr. Rice's ties to our great state are the foundation of her character. Not only is she from Maine, it's the very foundation of her character that she's from Maine.
Yeah.
Guess what they did with those quotes from the website? Scrubby dub. They immediately deleted all that from the website.
No, but this is what I love about our lawmakers, right? Like, once it's out there on the internet, it exists forever, right? Screenshots exist. That lovely video that we just shared with all of you, that exists. Like, you can't wipe that from the record, right? Just because you cleaned it, off of your website doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. I just love it.
Yeah, but to be fair to them, they're incredibly old. So it's possible they don't know what the internet is. I mean, I remember the famous speech where Senator Ted Stevens was like, "It is a series of tubes." Okay, not really. No, they keep making the same mistake. Like, I think in the old days, when they first came up as politicians, it was incredibly hard to find tape of them saying something at a rally or at when they were on TV. I don't think they caught on to everything's on tape, it's on the internet, right? And so they're by instinct liars. And they lie all the time. Susan Collins is a deep liar. I can't believe anybody gives money to politicians. Did I get $21 million? And then expects them to vote their way. Me? Vote with the people who gave me $21 million? I would never, right? And then she, that little smug elitist laugh she has, like, Susan Rice, she's not even from Maine. Oh, please. Okay, so now, two more things about this, though. One is, I did not appreciate her Trumpian flair there. When she's like, she pleaded with me to give her the introduction.
Right, yes, I noticed that too. I feel like, man, it's a little disastrous how much his rhetoric is rubbing off on everyone else, members of the media, other lawmakers. That's not okay.
Yeah, and so look, Susan Rice, she's fine. Do I think she should definitely be the candidate? No, I don't think that. I think there should be a primary. So that's point number two. The Democrats are now salivating at the mouth to get at that $3.5 million. So the minute that you guys, real people, raise that money, they're like, establishment is going to get that, right? Oh, hold on. Nobody died and made Susan Rice the Democratic nominee in Maine. So that, I hope, will be a spirited contest, okay?
I agree, absolutely.
And I would want to give it to someone who's a real progressive, who then later isn't going to pull all this moderate crap that Democrats and Republicans do whenever there's tax cuts for the rich, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to get rid of in Maine. So I don't know what Susan Rice is going to do, but this line of attack against Susan Rice is ridiculous. That somehow she's not from Maine when you are the one person who went nuts over how much she's from Maine, right? And this whole thing about how she pleaded with you. No, she asked you, can you do the intro? Because we're from the same state. You did a nice intro. You could have left it at that. And you know what you could do? You could be honest for the first time in your life. And if it turns out you're running against Susan Rice, you can say, hey, you know what? Look, I know that I don't live in Maine and she doesn't live in Maine and we're both elitist politicians. But hey, you know what? And I gave her a nice intro. She has some nice things, but we disagree. Here's what I'm going to fight for. Here's what she's going to fight for. And so you should vote for me. I know for a politician that's unacceptable. You have to do a character attack immediately. You have to do stupid attacks about where people live when you have no leg to stand on whatsoever, etc. So she goes low immediately. And remember why the establishment loved Susan Collins in the first place. She's above it. She's bipartisan. So whenever there's a tax cut for the rich, she votes for it. She's so bipartisan, right? And she doesn't get in the gutter. All of a sudden, she's in the gutter with Trump talking about, oh, she was pleading with me to give the speech. All that was missing was this, like some sort of Trumpian hand motion while she was saying it. So her attacks against Susan Rice in this context are nonsense. And Democratic establishment, that's not your money. That was given by a lot of hardworking Americans to find a progressive in Maine who's actually going to vote as a progressive and not like Susan Collins. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.